Hello everyone, welcome to yet another day in this clown decade, the decade where things are only going to get worse before they get better. And today we are talking about the inarguable failure of Labour to do anything about the channel crossings down in the south of England, across the English Channel, because while they were trying to push the news that, hey look, we've completely stopped migrants arriving from the 26th to the 30th of May, you take a look at the 31st when the weather stopped being so terrible and over 1,000 migrants crossed. That was in a single day. That is the most we've ever seen in a single day. And naturally, even BBC News reported on this. More than 1,100 migrants arrived in the UK after crossing the English Channel on Saturday, the highest number on record on a single day so far in 2025, and I think it's ever as well. On Sky News' Sunday Morning with Trevor Phillips, Defence Secretary John Healey said Britain had lost control of its borders over the last 5 years. You don't say. The most recent arrivals bring the annual total up so far to 14,812, up 42% on this time last year and 95% up from the same point in 2023. That is an unmitigated disaster. It is nearly double than what it was from 2 years ago, and nearly up 1.5 just from last year. Almost 37,000 people crossed the channel in small boats in 2024, but the highest figure were for 2022, when 45,755 people arrived. And this year, it's only going to get as bad, but we'll get into that quite shortly. I'm also wrong about the highest number ever. That was on the 3rd of September 2022, in which 1,305 people crossed the border. However, given that that happened in September, clearly that means that, well, we will only see the records go higher this year, I would imagine. Healey had a lot more to say, in fact, saying that the scenes of migrants being picked up by smugglers like a taxi to be brought to the UK is shocking. Well, it's been happening for years and everyone's been complaining about it. He said there is an agreement in place with the French authorities, who rescued 184 on Saturday, which I think actually saved the record. So well done, French police, you managed to stop the new record being set. Our concentration now is to push them to get into operation so they can intercept these smugglers and stop these people in boats, not just on the shore. A Home Office spokesperson said, "We all want to end dangerous small boat crossings which threaten lives and undermine our border security." You don't say. The people smuggling gangs do not care if the vulnerable people they exploit live or die. And these people are paying thousands to cross the border because they want to come here, because they get free stuff, more or less, and get to exploit an awful lot of our lacklustre law and order policy when it comes to working illegally, etc, 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 etc. Then they can apply for asylum to get even more stuff. Anyway, I could go on and on and on and on. I have covered this far too much to go into it again right now. And we will stop at nothing to dismantle their business model and bring them to justice. Well, as has been said many times before, you disrupt the business model, it just makes a vacuum that other people fill up anyway. It's pointless. You need to turn them around in the ocean. This is why this government has put together a serious plan to take down these networks at every stage. It's so serious that you nearly beat the record for most people crossed in a day. Yes, that's very serious. Anyway, this news gets even worse for Labour, as up to 50,000 migrants could cross the channel this year. As nearly 15,000 people have arrived on small boats so far in 2025, analysis by the Times suggests another 35,000 could be coming, and I think it quite easily could. The numbers are usually quite small at the start of the year due to the fact it's winter and the weather's usually pretty choppy, but you end up with calmer seas in the summer. That's when they all take advantage and come over. So after going through all the stats we just went through on the BBC, the Times report that intelligence gathered by Border Force have estimated that more than 2,000 migrants are waiting to make the journey amid forecasts of a catastrophic summer of crossing. Oh, that's good, isn't it? Videos posted onto TikTok showed migrants celebrating as they crossed the channel packed into unseaworthy dinghies. Well, how's that different to the past few years we've had under the Tories then? Saturday's arrivals took the total number to have crossed so far this year to 14,811. The highest figure recorded for the first 5 months of the year, and 42% higher than this time last year. Analysis by the Times using similar modelling as previous Border Force methods to estimate future arrivals has forecast a further 35,000 on course to arrive by the end of the year. This would take the final tally for 2025 to 50,000, according to a formula that has accurately predicted monthly crossings in previous years. A Border Force said it did not recognise this figure and suggested the number would be lower. I know which side I'm on. I am going to trust the accurate model that has previously been proven accurate. Further stats on giving French millions of pounds to intercept boats are displayed here as well, and they've intercepted just 38% of them this year, so That's not actually as bad as I thought it would be, to be fair, but it is a colossal waste of money considering what you could pay for with the millions we've sent over. And that's actually down from 45% last year and 47% the year before. So that means one of two things. Either more boats are crossing, so it's not acting as a deterrent, or the French are getting lazier. It is the lowest rate since small boats began ferrying migrants to the UK on a regular basis in 2018, and has come despite a 3-year, £480 million deal Britain struck with France to help intercept migrants in 2023. Healy said it was a really big problem. The French authorities were unable to intervene to intercept the boats 3 months on from agreeing to amend its laws. And this was, as well, part of the deal to do with the fishing. They get to access our waters for 12 years and fish under EU rules. And the idea was that it would, well, they'd get more involved in stopping migrants crossing. Doesn't seem to have happened. Then again, it could always take more time. We did only just strike that deal. Calling on the French to follow through with their pledge, Healy told Sky News, they're not doing it, but for the first time we've got the level of cooperation needed. Do you think they're doing less? We've got the agreement that they will change the way they work. Our concentration now is to push them to get that into operation so they can intercept people smugglers and stop these people in boats, not just on the shore. That'll be part of, I hope, dealing with the absolutely intolerable problem. They'll just move over to Belgium and start crossing from there, by the way. That's the way they'll get around it. And obviously, once again, they mention that Britain has lost control of its borders over the last 5 years. Yes, well done. Thank you, Defence Secretary. That's what an awful lot of people have been saying and called bigots for saying, so thank you for confirming. Anyway, the article also mentions Labour and Tories pointing fingers at each other, saying they're both terrible, and then saying Reform doesn't actually have a plan, whereas Reform are obviously just saying, well, both of them have a track record of failing, so why wouldn't you vote for us? But the knock-on effects of not actually dealing with our borders are both incredibly serious and just, again, chip away at the social fabric of society. Because obviously Kentish towns end up getting the brunt of these migrants, having people knock on doors to use phones and then barge their way in sometimes if they don't get their way. I've gone through that before, but it's also just little things like this. Dunkirk flotilla reenactment diverted by small boats in Channel as Border Force orders World War II event to make way for migrants. Now this was way over a week ago, but it just goes to show how this is affecting even the little things. It was 80 years since Dunkirk, and this was supposed to be a celebration of one of the greatest rescue operations of World War II. And they couldn't reenact it properly because of migrants coming over. If that doesn't tell you the story of modern Britain, I don't know what does. So the flotilla of little ships crossing the English Channel to commemorate the 85th, not 80th anniversary of the Dunkirk evacuation was forced to change course to make way for a migrant boat. A fleet of 66 vessels set sail from Ramsgate, Kent to Dunkirk at 6 a.m. on Wednesday to mark Operation Dynamo. The commemorative journey, intended as a poignant tribute to the bravery and sacrifice of Dunkirk evacuations, was disrupted when authorities demanded the flotilla be diverted. Border Force and the French Navy requested the flotilla provide a 1 nautical mile exclusion zone for a migrant boat being escorted across the channel. That says it all as well, doesn't it? It was being escorted, presumably, by either RNLI or a French Coast Guard ship, because we are incapable of protecting our own borders and keeping the English Channel free of ships or little boats that should not be there. And little boats that should be there obviously are diverted. Marine traffic audio revealed the little ships were told that there is a French warship on our head with a migrant boat close by, so it was a French warship. They're supposed to turn them round and they didn't. And we've been requested to give 1 nautical mile distance from that vessel over. A French voice believed to be from the French Navy responded, "Thank you, sir, thank you very much." After hearing of the incident, Reform UK leader took to X and said, "This says it all about the destruction of our history values as well. The aggressive young males on their way over here have nothing in common with us." And it's entirely true. And it's maybe low level. It may be something that we can all see and forget about in a few days. But this is the type of story that just says it all. We can't even have the little things that are supposed to commemorate brave men's sacrifices to, ironically enough, protect Britain's borders, while we are literally letting a French warship tell our ships what to do to allow foreign people over who should not be here. It goes without saying that this is absolutely ridiculous. And I don't know how many ways I can keep saying that over and over before I just get fed up of this. As has been said many times over by many people, Reform UK is the only political party that give us even a chance of stopping seeing stories like this. Because Labour and Tories have had years to come to an agreement on what needs to actually be done about this. And it used to be that, Labour saying Tories are doing too much about this. Now it's turned into everyone saying they're not doing enough, while they had 14 years to ignore them. They're just fundamentally unserious parties who deserve the collapse that is inevitable. Anyway, another result of the Channel migrants coming over is that we end up having, well, obviously undesirables, but to the point they are active spies of other regimes that are enemies of ours. Iranians accused of spying in the UK were asylum seekers. The three accused of assisting the Foreign Intelligence Service, obviously Iranians, and they came over on small boats because it's a national security risk, as everyone on the right wing has been saying for years now. And we kept voting in the right wing quote-unquote Tories to do something about it, and every time they made it worse. They had a slight improvement in 2023, I think it was, but they could not deal with this, and they did not have the political will to do anything about it. So instead people got fed up, and Labour got in, and they're even more useless at it somehow. Somehow they are even more useless at it. So 3 Iranian former asylum seekers, what does former asylum seeker mean, have appeared in court accused of spying for Tehran. The 3 men, who have been granted leave to remain after arriving in Britain in lorries and small boats, just incredible, were charged with engaging in conduct likely to assist a foreign intelligence service between August 14 last year and February 16 this year. Following an investigation by counter-terrorist police. Are they being deported? No. Are they foreign criminals? Yes. Would they be deported under a reform regime? Absolutely. The 3 men, all living in London, so probably in social housing, appeared at Westminster Magistrates Court flanked by 8 prison officers after being arrested earlier this month on suspicion of committing offences contrary to the National Security Act 2023. Mr. Shepavand of St John's Wood was charged with surveillance, reconnaissance and open source research with the intention of committing serious violence against a person in the UK. Mr. Manesh of Kensal Rise and Nuri from Ealing were both charged with the same offence, but with intention that violence would be committed by others. Both Mr. Shepavand and Mr. Nuri spoke through a Farsi interpreter at the brief court hearing to confirm their names, dates of birth and addresses, and it just says everything, doesn't it? Probably in social housing in London, indefinite leave to remain because they probably arrived here in 2018. Probably getting a social house because I have no idea how they afford any sort of rent in London. These people take the absolute mick out of our laws. Well, just ignore them. And then not only that, but you have the privilege of paying for them to stay here while they commit effectively high treason, if you can even call it that, because they're not even British nationals, obviously. And not only that, they can't even speak English well enough in the courts that you then need to pay for an interpreter for them while they are being done up for spying for an enemy, or at least antagonistic state. This happens. There is undeniable proof this happens, and this is not the only story of it, and yet you will still have lefties going on about, oh, well, no one would make the dangerous crossing unless they were actually fleeing from war. Yeah, what about these people then? Why did they cross? Oh, to spy for their nation. Incredible. And the thing is, when it does come to anything that Labour are trying to do to help the situation, it's either things the Tories were doing and they scrapped, and are now trying their best to have a knockoff version of it. And even when they do that, it's worse than what the Tories had. Example, migrant return hubs could be hijacked by Russian spies. MI6 has raised concerns about Keir Starmer's proposal to send failed asylum seekers to the Balkans. And the thing is, every Balkan country is asked at the moment, they're saying, no, we're not doing it. He did it with Albania, and they said, no, that was just a deal with Italy. There were people saying that this was all Tony Blair's idea and he had stuff in his back pocket to bring out for Keir Starmer in times like this. No, he doesn't. Stop kidding yourselves. They are just incompetent. This is just a total mess and things are going to get worse. It's the clown decade. We are in a situation where nobody was interested in running government apart from the civil service and they all hate you. It is that simple. The MPs have all been stupid. The civil service have all been evil. It's as simple as that. Obviously, it's not all of them, but it seems to be the prevailing culture within there. I have no doubt there's people in the civil service who do actually not hate you and want things to get better. It's just they don't get anywhere within the civil service. and actually leave because of how incompetent people are or how evil other people are. Security advice from intelligence services say the region is unsafe for migrant deportation schemes because of its proximity to Russia, government sources told The Times. The advice privately warned that proposals would mean creating sensitive national infrastructure and facilities in a Russian sphere of influence that could be infiltrated and targeted by agents working on behalf of the Kremlin. Migrants sent to the region could also be targeted and exploited by President Putin's regime, the advice warned. This month, the Prime Minister confirmed revelations by The Times that the government was in talks with a number of countries about return hubs, which he described as a really important innovation. Wow. And this one can be taken over by Russians. And not only that, but a lot of them don't even want to do it. Why didn't we just use Rwanda as the return hub where we already paid hundreds of millions of pounds to actually make the infrastructure there and just send the migrants there like everyone wanted? Alright, Dominic says it's ridiculous and wouldn't work as well as we thought. We actually just need to turn the boats around. Fine. It's not the best, but if we're going to do it, at least do it properly. Why would you do this? Oh, I know. It's because Labour are full of incompetent morons who are emotionally driven and also by Twitter likes and people in the media. And because of that, they've ended up doing something incredibly stupid, getting rid of the Rwanda scheme and then replacing it with a much more lacklustre one which probably isn't even going to get off the ground. At least the Tories were nearly there. The Tories were terrible. They were useless. But at least they were nearly there with this. A few months off, that was the risk. It was a calculated risk because it probably wasn't actually going to go anywhere and they wanted to get out of power. Well, they've done that now. They've screwed themselves over. They're winning like 10 seats next election. Labour probably winning about 70 odd at this rate. Reform are coming in and they are our best chance to save all this. And I trust that they will do a hell of a lot better than the others because they actually have people from the private sector who've made things of themselves to actually do something and find solutions and implement them. My goodness, I cannot believe how bad this Labour government has been. It has been humiliating for them. And the fact anyone still defends them is beyond me. But some people, well, they will defend whatever colours they have chosen. Anyway, I think I'd better leave it there before I blow a blood vessel somewhere within me from all the stress of living in a country where the government doesn't particularly care if it's working or not, they just want their nice pensions. How are they going to get their pensions in a country where the economy isn't working? I have no idea, but one way to ensure the economy won't work is to not have your borders secure so that effectively the place can just get effectively looted and money laundered, etc, etc, etc. Right, with that, that's everything I had for you. Do become a subscriber, leave a like, leave a comment. If you enjoy what I do, if you have a little bit more to give, do become a member. Or, of course, you can give super chats and super thanks in any video or stream that I do. In terms of streams, the only one left for this week is Subnautica tomorrow, so do come along to that. And then next week there's a Tosh Talks, another Subnautica, and then, of course, a Laughing at the Guardian, so do come along to that. Right, that's everything I had for you for today. Once again, thank you very much for watching, and until next time, goodbye.